Kendall Fischer, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, well, the real thanks goes to you today. We're hanging out in Salt Lake City, which is a favorite spot of Andrea and mine. We've been here like over the years a number of times. We lived here in the summers for a couple of years, and it's just a really great spot. And what's funny is you are right on the point of this podcast. Even though I know you now, you were originally a stranger from the internet who we happened to get connected with. Like way back, like how many years ago? At least 2018. So 3 years ago at this point. And we created a dance film with you called Out There. Andrea's here to help me, folks, because I don't remember all the things we created. We made a lot of stuff back in the day. So the film was called Out There, and it was shot at the Salt Flats, and you were our dancer. And like that was like some of the original magic of the internet was like, we're going to Utah. Is there a dancer that we can work with in Utah? And we found you, and you were super cool. And you're still super cool. How are you cool? How are you this cool?
I did think it was like a little bit. I was like, oh, random strangers from the internet. Is this okay? But then I was just like, I feel like I'm getting a good vibe. Like,
yeah.
this is good.
You have to build like a portfolio, I feel like, is part of it. So like with the podcast, it's the same thing. I'll reach out to people, and some people can be really hesitant off the bat. But now that they can look through my feed and be like, oh, there's 50 plus episodes of this thing. Like this clearly exists. He's not just making this up. So yeah. It does help when you've got like some type of track record. Because if that had been our first dance film, it would have been like, yeah, no, that's okay. But there was something back there.
Well, and the other thing was like Andrea was like sending me multiple choreography videos, and we had like online rehearsals, and I was like, okay, if they just wanted to like murder me, I don't think they'd go through this.
That'd be a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could just find an easier murder victim,
Most of the internet is like just normal people who are just trying to do cool things, and it's just super unfortunate that some people don't have that same like take on it. And they're like, this is a tool for bad things. That's not good. But I always appreciate the good side of the internet. And that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
So we have been hanging out in Salt Lake City for about a week now, I think. And just seeing all the sites. And Andrea and I, for people who've been keeping up with the podcast, have sort of finally gotten to the point where a lot of the wrinkles with our business are starting to get ironed out. And things seem like they're going smoothly again, which means I get to do the podcast again. I have time for it. And I just love Salt Lake City. I mean, been here for a week. It is boiling hot. I mean, it's just 100 degrees every day, which is super cool. But there's so much to do here. I feel like there's no lack of, do you want to go hiking? Do you want to go do archery? Do you want to go rock climbing like we did today? You guys have everything here.
That's how I feel. I feel like people have asked, like, would you ever live somewhere else? And I'm like, ooh, it's really hard to like argue for. I mean, there's a lot of great places, but we kind of have it all here.
Yeah. You really do. I mean, you're just tucked in this valley but do the winters kind of suck here?
I love it. And honestly, so I grew up in Park City, and so it snows a whole lot more there. And so that was just like normal to me. And then coming down to Salt Lake, I was like, oh, so easy because it snows and then it just melts off the streets. No big deal. But you still have the snow in the mountains to go skiing in, and it's perfect.
Yeah. I feel like for those of us who grew up in the Midwest where it was like several months of just shit, freezing ice on the road type life, and just gray skies, like to come out west and see what winter and everything can really be like it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is like the good winter, the magic sparkle snow.
Yeah. It's kind of the best. Well, you've just showed us up quite well at rock climbing, which was fun. Yeah. So what was the place we went to called?
The Front.
The Front in Salt Lake
Front Climbing Club.
Very trendy place.
Yeah.
Very hipster vibes. There's a big gym there and yoga classes and a cafe and everything.
I love it. Yeah.
You could just live there.
Oh, and some people do, like van lifers. You can park nearby, and there's like showers. There's, there's like a small restaurant there. You can use their Wi-Fi and just hang out. They have, like you're saying, like climbing, yoga, fitness classes. It's a great place to be. They have like their cute courtyard you can hang out in.
I noticed the courtyard, and of course my eye was drawn to the Traeger grills because that's like the dream would be to cook on one of those bad boys.
Yeah. They make it so you can just be there all the time.
I know. And it seemed like certain people were there too, just that's where they hang. What's up, Monty? What's up? This is Kendall's significant other walking through, hanging out. Walking out. This podcast is live. You never know what's going to happen.
crazy things like people walking by.
People walking by. Well, have you done any more dance films lately, or what's the latest thing with you?
Oh, I did a dance film with another friend of mine. He had a concept for kind of inspired by the movie Inception, like a dream within a dream. Are you never really sure if you're awake
Ooh.
or not? So it wasn't like a narrative so much as just exploring that concept and different fun things of me like kind of like falling, and I had to like he was trying to get me to like fall onto this crash mat, and I was like, that's kind of scary, like just standing straight and then fall right over, like to kind of wake yourself up out of the dream was the
Oh my
idea.
gosh. Did you pull it off?
I
The
did
kick, right?
somewhat, yeah.
I just watched
Yeah.
Inception.
Okay.
I love that
Perfect.
movie so
Yeah.
much.
So, yeah. So I mean, it's hard to make yourself just like stay straight and not step forward to catch yourself. That was the big challenge there. But it ended up being a really cool, little short film.
So you do stunt work now too.
Okay. Yeah.
Add that
Add
to
that
the
to my resume. Yeah.
I mean, if you fall for a video, that counts, I would
yeah.
think.
I guess that's.
You're probably in
that's
the
what it is.
union. You probably need to pay your union dues.
Oh gosh. Uh-oh.
I feel like it is so funny when you don't that element of like danger in anything. Like that's the same thing with rock climbing too. It's like you can look at that wall, even if you're just on like a bouldering wall that goes up like 15 feet or something like that, and it's easy to watch as an observer. But once you hold on to the rocks and you start like going a little further up and a little further up, and then you look down and you realize that you are in fact off the ground and you could fall, like something different happens in your body. Like there's a whole lot of that survival mechanism that just like kicks in. And it's got to be the same to just be like, yeah, just go ahead and fall on your face right there on the ground. No big deal. You were falling forward or you were falling backward?
Forward. Yeah.
Yeah, that's way scarier.
So that's harder, yeah. And it's just so natural. Like, even if I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing. There's a crash mat right there. Everything's going to be fine. Yeah, just to not like stop yourself and try to go as long as you can straight forward. I mean, luckily he's a great cinematographer and was able to like take my small fall forward before I tried to catch myself and make it look like something more. So, yeah.
Yeah. I do miss, in a way, like creating the dance films that we used to do, because we did that for several years. I feel like that's where we got our chops for more what we do now, like on the vlogging side and just sort of more like travel adventure stuff, because ultimately all the dance films like turned into that anyways. Like they became way more about telling like a short film story about like travels and outdoor places and all these things. But it was kind of fun back in the day to like map shots and put this whole, like, to put a fiction together. Just it was a little different, especially when we were working with people like you who we had never met, and it was like, okay, we're gonna come out, we're just gonna go to the salt flats and start shooting, and we think we know what's gonna happen. But that was such a fun day too. Like I remember, because we had never been there before, but you probably had been, so you knew a little more what to expect out there.
Yeah.
It's a crazy place.
I love the salt flats.
It's so cool. For anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, it's just, God, how do you describe that? A white canvas on the ground for just miles and miles, and you can be miles away from everybody else who's there too. And there's mountains in the background, and the way the light hits it, like everything's bouncing back up, so everything looks really cool.
Yeah, super bright.
Yeah,
sure.
It's a totally unique place. People are sleeping on the salt flats, I think.
Not here. People here, locals are like.
They get it?
Yeah. Yeah, like if you have like a local band or something, you always got to do like your album cover shoot out there and like dance shoots, and it's like you can't blame us. It's a great place. It's really photogenic.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, I get that, because I feel like in certain places, like even when I go to Arizona and talk with Arizona friends, some of them are like, yeah, no, I've never been to the Grand Canyon, and I'm like, that's 2 hours away from here.
Right there.
Like it's right there. But maybe that's some spirit of Utah stuff of just like a real outdoorsy culture of go and explore it all.
Yeah, and I do feel like there's a lot of like, I can create art, that kind of attitude in Utah as well. Like, oh yeah, I'll do that, and that also, like I was mentioning, it's like, and coming together with the outdoorsiness, it makes it so that yeah, we're out there, we're doing our dance projects, music projects, whatever.
Yeah, it's a creative town for sure. And it was, well, I don't know how deep I want to go on this, but it's interesting to be in like the heart of Mormon country too. And then there's also such a huge outburst of the arts right in Salt Lake City also. It's there's some juxtaposition to me there, I feel like. I don't know. Just because I feel like you've got the conservative minded crowd mixed in with all of the young artists coming up.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I do feel like there's maybe a lot of like the artistic expression comes from like the counterculture, like people who have left the church. I've never been a part of the church, but I do feel like I've seen that where if it's a struggle to leave your community and people need an outlet, and so they often get involved in different art forms and have a lot to share with that.
That makes sense to me. Like everything's just like on a pendulum. And there's always going to be a balance. Like no matter where you go, there's going to be as hardcore in any one direction as you can go, you're going to have the exact opposite living next door. Like because everything has to be somehow in balance, I suppose, right?
Oh,
I don't know.
Sure. I don't know.
You've got like the whole state of Texas being balanced now by the giant city of Austin. Like, you know what I mean? There's balance. There's balance, folks.
You see it.
Appreciate people who are different from you. But just Utah in itself is just endless things to do. But Salt Lake City in particular, I think is just, I don't know, full of a lot of people with a lot of energy making a lot of things. And if I remember right, you were the artistic director of a dance company. Are you still in that role?
Yes, I'm still doing that. I just started my first semester of my Doctor of Physical Therapy program. Told myself that I'm like gonna totally step away from that role and not do anything. And then, I was like my first weekend, I was like, oh, I can still do this. Like, and it's like a really intense program and I'm super busy with it, but I do still want to be involved with running this dance company. My assistant director is like stepping up a little more and kind of like pushing her into a little more leadership role. But yeah, I was momentarily like, I have to leave entirely. And then now I'm like, oh, I want to still be involved somehow.
Maybe it's good to have that intention at the start because you want to take this program seriously too.
Yeah.
I get that. What's the name of the dance company again?
Myriad Dance Company.
Myriad Dance Company. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can never really like put your whole self into things that are that big, especially like between a leadership position and also going to school. I mean, that's intense. Are you doing that through University of Utah? Okay. So why the physical therapy?
So actually, I was inspired to do physical therapy from I've been teaching dance and fitness for years, and was just realizing like, yeah, I really love to like work with people hands-on, help them reach their like movement goals and get stronger. And realized like, oh, there's some more that I could do with that. And I've had really great experiences as a patient for physical therapy. And so, yeah, got excited about that. I quit my full-time job as a online content editor and did 2 years of prerequisites and then just finally got to start my actual program this summer.
And what are you going to be doing with that when you get that doctorate?
So I will be a physical therapist.
And what do you get to do? Will you open a private practice of some sort?
That sounds real hard.
Dance-focused practice?
Yeah, no, I would love to work with dancers, performing artists. But yeah, I don't know that I would, especially right away, like jump into a private practice. I've seen like owning a small business and it's hard. And I feel like if I, I'm investing a lot to go to school right now, and I would kind of just want to have like a more secure, even though I understand that there's more like earning potential if you like own your practice, but there's also more like responsibility and like risk, and of course. So I think I would not immediately try to work for myself with that. And if I just have that desire to like run my own company. I have my dance company already, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that does make sense for a lot of healthcare practitioners too, because you end up going through so much schooling, which is so intense, and then to get out and then also be like, cool, now I'm gonna also be an entrepreneur on top
Yeah,
of
on
that,
my own. Yeah.
on your
I'm
own.
like, oh, that sounds scary.
I do think most people end up building like a client base, or at least I don't know, getting their skills really like locked in professionally before you start just opening doors to some
Yeah.
brand new thing. But then also like the whole face of it is being transformed right now because of the internet. So like between telehealth and anything else, the fact that you can become a healthcare practitioner and build a brand online and do almost solely your work in telehealth, like that's totally possible as well. Or you
That's
can be just
true.
a global thing. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to be in one place.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm like, oh, okay, I better think about this. And I do like that idea, especially for working with like a more niche clientele. And I'm trying to keep an open mind right now. Like, there's so much to explore within physical therapy, but I do think obviously with my background in performing arts that it would be really interesting to work with other performing artists. And I know I've heard like lots of friends talk about their experience going to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, like, just rest, or
Yeah.
or like, oh, well, you're not in pain while you're walking, so you're fine. And my friends are like, oh no, you're not getting it. Like,
Yeah.
so to be able to like advocate for what performing artists need, that would be really a cool opportunity. And maybe could do that within a little bit of a niche focus, like within a larger practice, or maybe eventually doing something more on my own. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, sky's the limit for you.
Oh, well, thank you.
I do think that's the way it's going in a lot of physical therapy too, because I continually hear, because obviously we work in the healthcare industry too, and I continually hear that that's the pathway. Is like, I think it's best. You need to embrace your strengths and your background and the passion that you have, and then apply that to bodies, because we have so many generalists in physical therapy. And you're right, like when you go to your doctor and they just don't get where you're coming from. They don't get, especially as like a dancer, like I can't just take this month off here, like we have a performance coming up, so I need to make an action plan that works with that, or it's true in jiu-jitsu a lot too. Like I know that there are specifically physical therapists for jiu-jitsu practitioners, because they know
Yeah.
like this is the type of injury you get, you can modify things in this way, you need to be training these muscles. Like
That's great.
it makes sense, right, that
Yeah.
everybody takes their background, the things they know, and then applies that forward. If we all did that, the world would be a great place. Like just embracing your strengths, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How long have you been dancing for? Your whole life, I assume. Like how old did you start?
Like I did a little baby ballet class when I was like 2. So I did that just probably like a year, and then I did baby jazz class when I was like 8 or something. And then like I've been consistently dancing since I was 9, 10.
I've seen those classes that Andrea has taught. It's
Yeah.
mostly like stand on this dot
Yeah.
and then sort of pretend, let's jump up and down.
You're learning how to learn.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that makes sense. But it is funny, I feel like, for dancers, because there's such specific things you do with your body. Like it's been interesting watching Andrea learn about her own injury, and realizing that it's like, oh, it's because it was 20 years of turning my feet out, and not realizing what that does to you if you walk with your feet constantly turned out. Or, I mean, you've talked about all sorts of things like that. Like it's all from dance. Yeah, muscle imbalances, and it just messed with you a little bit, which is super hard. But for the rest of us I grew up playing some sports, but they were stuff that I don't think they really messed with me. Like baseball. Does baseball really mess with you? Like sometimes you might hurt your shoulder. Like that's the only thing you get from baseball as a kid, right? I don't know. Someone's going to have a problem that I said that.
If you do it for sure.
Yeah, well, I was never that good at baseball, so that's a big part of it. But like then I had just kind of a normal childhood, so I was learning how to like run, but even I learned how to run wrong, like I'm heel striking and doing all sorts of things that now I'm into, like the barefoot thing, and it's like now you need to change your stride and do totally different. But I don't think we get that component of that education in early enough for people. Like you need to learn how to just move from a young age. And
Oh, yeah.
we're not really teaching people how to do that.
I love that concept of rather than like waiting until something's wrong and then trying to address it, like assessing your movement patterns and habits, like posture, even as just like a general wellness thing. I would love to work with that kind of specialty as well. That would be another. I feel like that's so needed and helpful.
It's coming up. I see these places. I see these like I remember there was one place my buddy Andrew Hatlevig out in Wisconsin went and trained, and it's like MoveNat, I think is what it's called. And literally it's just like teaching adults how to do basic movements. And it feels and it's got to be you have to reach people who are open to the idea that they move wrong, which is often probably people who have already sustained a number of injuries. Because you have to be like, listen, I'm going to teach you how to walk on a balance beam, like correctly. I'm going to teach you how to hang from this bar correctly and like what muscles to engage. But I think it's just so humbling for us as people. Like if you engage with like a new sport, like it's as much as I'm going to go on a tangent. Ready for this?
Yeah.
As much as I wish I had like wrestled in high school or something, I don't at the same time, because coming into jiu-jitsu as an adult is so humbling and takes me back to the very beginning. It's like you have no strength, you have no cardio, you don't know how to move, you're not comfortable with your body on the ground. And so be a beginner. And like now you have the adult brain though to figure that out. But I don't think everybody can take the ego hit of someone being like, you literally don't know how to walk correctly.
Yeah.
Like
no,
that's a tough thing to tell an adult, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like easier if they're getting into a new activity, like you're saying, if you're like, I'm going to try jujitsu, and it's like, let yourself be a beginner. And they're like, okay, I am a beginner, but like walking or whatever, like this has been working fine for me, like all my life. Like,
but it hasn't is the thing.
Though. Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, no, you've been building up scar tissue in your knees because you've been doing this all wrong. And you wake up with back pain every day because your pillow's all messed up. You know, like it's all sorts of things. And there's no end to how deep you can go with it. I feel like, you know, it's really cool that you're going for this program because I feel a sense of that. Like, I don't have that passion in that direction towards something like physical therapy. I like it and I like hearing about it. And Andrea is the one who has the like passion to dive into 40 articles and be like, oh, this is what my knee's doing. You know, I totally don't. But I have the same thing with cooking where I'm like, I'll spend all day reading about something that someone else finds incredibly mundane.
Yeah.
Because that matters to me. So I don't know. It's cool that physical therapy is like that outlet for you, that place that you care about, that you want to study, go back to school.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Like for years, if anyone asked if I would ever go back to school, I was like, no, why?
Yeah.
Why would
Why
I go
would
back?
you?
But then once you have an answer like why, then I was like, oh, definitely. That makes it easy to, well, I don't know about like fully easy, but like much more doable to, you know, like leave what I'm currently doing and invest all this time and money into the education part of it.
Is it kind of nice to be a student again in a way?
It is, because being a student is structured in a way that like life outside of that isn't. Like, you know what your goals are. You have this test coming up. You got to make sure you know the material on it. You got to make sure you finish this class, you know, next semester, you know what classes you're going to take. Like you have those expectations and you can like check your boxes, and that does feel good in that way. And rather than being just like out in the world and who knows, like you kind of create that for yourself, what your goals might be, or maybe you don't.
Yeah. That's a whole part of like how school is supposed to prepare you for adulthood. But what you realize is there's so much structure in school that disappears in adulthood. And it disappears even more now when you have things like, well, you could just work from home all day in a lot of jobs, or you could start your own business and then there's no more discipline anymore. There's no more rules that are set for you. Like, you have to decide all of it for yourself. It's kind of scary. I have a buddy who, I don't need to talk about who it is, of course, but did reach out because they were like, man, life after college was just super hard for me because I've been successful in a structured environment my whole life. And then all of a sudden there's no rules. And then beyond that, we have a pandemic and there's more rules that sort of create less rules. Like, you're going to be home all day. There's no rules to that. There's no activities or classes. There's nothing to put on the calendar that sort of makes any sense anymore. And I can get that for certain people. I feel lucky because I feel like I'm the opposite. Like, give me a blank slate and I feel way better. But I do feel like sometimes I miss the, like, you know, this teacher, you know, this class, you know what you have to do to get an A on this test. Like, there's something kind of peaceful in that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe.
I think so.
Well, you're doing it again, so you must think so.
Yeah.
To an extent. Well, that is really cool. But you have taken dance even to the next level of athleticism, because I not only see you dancing all the time, I see you far up in the air, flying around on ribbons all the time and hoops and all sorts of things as well, because you're really into the aerial side of things. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love aerial dance. I've been doing it for maybe like 6 or 7 years, something like that. And got into it through non-aerial dance. Was in a show that had some aerial dancers, and I was like, "What are you doing? What is this? How do I learn?" So, was really fun to kind of explore that as just another type of dance.
Do you feel like it's totally different than dancing on the ground, or that there are a lot of similarities?
Uh, Both, I guess. I think you definitely like having a background dancing on the ground helps with a lot of like body awareness um, for dancing in the air. But dancing on the ground, a lot of times, I mean, there's not much opportunity to work on like picking yourself up from above. And we do that a ton in aerial dance. So that's like a big strength factor that comes into play. But also really cool, kind of like you were talking about starting jujitsu as an adult. Most people who are involved in aerial dance start as adults. And so I think that's really nice in that it's something that feels, well, can feel like welcoming to be a beginner at as an adult. And I've heard about, different studios where you can train that have different cultures. The studio that I train and teach at, it's like the most welcoming, the most like we're all different, but we're all appreciating each other. Like, enjoy your journey more than like stressing about like getting to the specific goals necessarily, but celebrate your goals. And so it's a really nice environment for getting started at something new as an adult.
That makes sense. Yeah, because even like an adult dance class, like any form of normal, traditional, gravity-defined dance, let's put it. Do you like that one? Gravity-defined dance?
Andrea approves.
Dance where you're on the ground. To get into that as an adult, I feel like is very rare. Like, you have rare people who are doing an adult ballet class that don't have some experience doing ballet, because just like you started when you were 2. Like, that's just what you do,
Yeah.
But I have to imagine that in the aerial world, because it's a relatively like new, well, it's not a new thing, but it's like new as a phenomenon. It's new as
Newly
a popular,
yeah.
place to be, that, well, we're all beginners now, so you can not feel so far behind.
Yeah, and I do feel like there's definitely that perception about dance, like, well, if you didn't start when you're 2, like, don't bother. But I also think that, like, when I was 2, like, did I gain a lot? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I was saying, like, you're learning how to learn when you're in, like, a 2-year-old dance class. You're not necessarily, like, already getting that great technique or
Right.
something. So I do, and I mean, mentally, you're more ready to, like, learn and able to coordinate your body when you're older. So I always feel like if I hear people say like, "Oh, I always wanted to dance, but now I'm old, I can't start." I'm like, "Oh, like you can,
Right.
Go ahead." I mean, you have to be willing to be like not just perfect at it amazing immediately. So
Willing to be bad is such a
that's,
huge
yeah.
thing, and I don't know, it's something I avoided for a really long time, and I think in general it's not such a bad policy. Like, in life, it's usually the best idea to do the thing that you're good at, and like really embrace your strengths as a person, because that's the thing that makes you unique, and you don't always have to be bad at stuff. I actually think it'd be a really hard life if you only ever did things you were bad at, like all the time.
Oh yeah.
Like, you should be embracing the things you're good at too, but you have to be willing to take on a challenge or two of the thing that really scares you and you're really bad at. There's so much, but like, I feel like there is a lot between dance and martial arts too. Like, I had no perception of where my own body was. Like, I've seen Andrea watch somebody do something once and then go, okay, and then she can do it in her body. And when I first started jiu-jitsu, I was like, where is your leg going? Like, I can watch it and it makes sense to me as I watch it, but then as soon as I try to do it,
Oh yeah.
it's like it's like it's not even my own body. And it's got to be the same thing with dance coming into that as an adult. Like, there's so many of us that have absolutely no familiarity with just our own bodies. And I don't know, maybe if you do a ton of yoga or something and you're more connected with your body, it's a little easier. But
Yeah.
I feel like there's more people than we think who are out there, like I was, who just have no perception. It's like trying to move a hand that's not yours. It's like, can I control this like bionic arm through a computer? Like, it would take a while to get that skill.
Oh, definitely. And I teach bar fitness, pure bar, and that's something that it's like really fun to have clients discover all the time, that like, they think their leg is straight, for example, and it's not.
Right.
Like, and you just kind of like having the outside eye of the teacher being there is really helpful for things like that, because as like you're saying, like you just don't necessarily have that awareness.
Yeah. That's kind of a fitness aspect of it, isn't it? The bar thing, as opposed to like, I don't know, is it more artsy or is it more fitness?
Oh, it's definitely more fitness.
More fitness.
So it's there's a ballet bar, and we do work with like external rotation of the legs inside the hip. I'm taking anatomy, so now I'm like, leg means lower leg. I said it wrong, but like for general people, the leg, the thigh.
For the layman.
Yeah. So that's like the aspect of ballet that it's inspired by, but it's really not dance. You don't have to have a dance background or anything. It's just great full body workout. And yeah, I love, like I was saying, like that's something that really helped inspire me to want to get into physical therapy, is I think it's so fun to introduce people and help coach them along, introduce people to this this thing that's going to strengthen them and change their lives, and like build their confidence, and there's
almost like a veil that drops. I feel like this is possible in a lot of different, I don't know, sports, but also art, where if we turn it into a fitness activity, it seems far more accessible to people. So like, instead of committing to, I'm going to do ballet, I'm going to like learn ballet, it's like, well, I'm going to go to this bar class that is more sort of fitness related and getting to know my body and things. And the same thing exists in martial arts too. I'm sorry to keep drawing the connection, but it's there, man. When people go to like a kickboxing class, which is not really teaching you how to kickbox, but it's giving you all the fitness aspects of that. And I feel like for some people that takes away that like intimidation factor, because they're like, you know what, I can go and I can be bad because I'm not actually fighting somebody. But I can get a really great workout from this sport. But I don't know that I'm trying to think of like somewhere else that exists. I can only think of dance and martial arts. Like there must be another area where it's like there's this larger art form, and instead of doing that, you're like allowed to take the intimidation factor and just do it for fitness. Am I crazy? I'm trying to think of something else.
Like a spin class,
as opposed to like full blown cycling. As opposed to like
cycling outdoors. Like you're not going to fall over because there's a station, so
that's
that's okay.
That's true.
I think that's a really good point, and I was totally thinking of kickboxing too, because I used to do that, and like I was like, oh, it's a fitness class, I can do that. But if I was like trying to like get into like competitive like fights or something, and that would be really scary.
If they put you in a ring, you'd be like,
oh gosh,
kickboxing, what?
No.
Yeah. I just had another one. There's got to be more examples of this. Well, rock climbing is one too, isn't it? Because instead of going out and taking on El Capitan, like free solo, whatever, you're just like, oh, I can go to a gym and I can scale up this wall and it's pretty low key, but it's a great workout. It takes that intimidation factor away.
That's so true.
What is that? Why are we like that? Why are we wired to not be okay with like trying and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I think these things are all great things. Maybe it's a good
thing, because it's like the fitness class setup is, it's a more controlled environment.
That's probably what it is.
That like the business that's running it wants you to be safe so that you don't sue them. So you kind of have like that security.
It's a little bit nerfed. It's a little bit like, and for most people, it's like, I don't really want to go break my arm on a regular basis, or get like a major injury. I get that. That's true. But I wonder if there is something that is still kind of missing from doing the full experience. But maybe it's a good thing because it allows adults to go and be a beginner and be like, this is fitness. But if you really like your kickboxing class and you're like, maybe I should try some Muay Thai stuff. Maybe I really should try that with a partner instead. And
maybe that inspires you to, expound upon that.
That's got to be a useful thing. There's got to be more. There's got to be some psychology that could be used to help. Like the thing I think about is cooking too. And what actually does it for cooking is like HelloFresh, right? Or these different food delivery places. because it's like the intimidation factor's gone. You don't have to pick the ingredients or the recipe. We will send that to you. So out of the box, you can do this. And then as you gain that knowledge and that passion for it, hopefully one day you end up going to the butcher shop and being like, I want that cut of meat and I want, these greens on the side, whatever.
Yeah, if you start to, you make it accessible, and then you start to see, like, maybe learn patterns of, like, what food combinations you like or don't, and can, move on from there and do your own thing a little more.
Yeah, there's like a pedagogy to this. I'm starting to see this. This has just occurred to me.
I know. I feel like you can develop a theory. I'm ready to read about it later.
Well, it's the same way I think that Andrea and I approach travel right now, which is that neither of us had a ton of travel experience. She got to go in a highly controlled, high school trip type setting to Germany, and that's her international travel. I still haven't done any international travel and barely had any travel within the U.S. I'd been on planes, but then you take a taxi right to a hotel. It's a super controlled thing. And then now that we've done like RVing across the US, it makes me think like I could probably, like, what's the next level? The next level is international. And the next level is international where they don't speak English. Like, so can you like add on to this in a way so that you can learn how to take on this thing that seems really intimidating when you look at it as a whole?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something here.
Like I'm keep building on that.
Because now I'm thinking like, what's the next area where people are way too intimidated to do it? It's a huge ego hit as an adult. It's too risky to do, but there is a way to do it that goes through that lens of like fitness to like get people to try new things. There's probably so many others that I'm just not even thinking of.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a kind of a unique thing because I can't think beyond spin. Batting cages? No. That's not quite the same, is it? Maybe.
I don't know.
Driving ranges?
Or, mini golf.
I'm sorry. This just occurred to me. Now I'm thinking, is there one for football? Is there one for basketball? There must be. I just don't know about them. Okay. This dead air time is really, really hanging thick in the air. Well, maybe we've made someone else think about it.
Yeah.
Someone can send me a message about this and what they do. But I do think that's a good thing, but I also think it's great when people can really go after something fully and try something new. And it is cool when something is sort of new, like the aerial side of things, where we can all be beginners because it's not like you've got the person that's been doing this for 20 years on every block, That's kind of a rare person. Do you have any fear of heights when you're up there? Is my other question.
Oh yeah. So I talk to my students about this all the time. And I encourage them to listen to how they're feeling. And I like to tell them that, like, if they're afraid, they don't have to like push through that. 'Cause I think that there's a narrative a lot of the time of like, you're afraid, but just do it anyway. Just go, go, go. And I don't think that's safe. Because when you're afraid, it's an alert, and sometimes like it's an alert, and it's like, oh yeah, you better watch out and stop right there. And sometimes it's an alert that you can notice, like, okay, why am I afraid? Oh, it's because my grip isn't very strong. So like if I readjust my grip, yeah, actually that's gonna be okay. So I like to encourage being more aware of that and listening to why you're afraid and kind of reasoning through why you're safe. And, you'll have students be like, oh, I can't let go with my hands. I can't let go. And we'll talk about like, all right, well, your knee is like hooked over here and your other foot's pushing here. So you have that pull and push and you're secure without your hands. And you know that you can like release your hands slowly and kind of test that theory. You can hold back on if you want to. And so, yeah, to me, it's, and I've obviously, I've been up high a bunch. I did rock climbing before getting into aerial. And so that I think really helps with just generally being comfortable with that. Right. But yeah, I like to encourage that kind of mindfulness about how you're feeling and your safety up in the air. 'Cause I mean, yeah, if you just fell from that height, that would be bad. But are you going to fall? Well, hopefully not if you're doing the things I told you to do, right?
Exactly.
But then if people are feeling afraid, even if I've told them like, all right, no, your legs here, you're in the perfect position, then I'm not going to push that because I don't want them to build habits of just like pushing like it sounds like bad because I feel like there's such like a cultural support for like push past your fears. And it's, but I kind of see it. Ooh, I kind of see another side of it, which is like think about your fears and then maybe that changes how you feel about it, and then maybe you're ready to move on.
We have such a distinct like misunderstanding of the emotion of fear, just because we do live in a very different world from the ones that like our brain and our emotional systems are prepared for. So like I think about this all the time, like the things that scare us and give us that like chronic stress in life is totally different from the thing that was supposed to, you know, save you from like a lion trying to eat you. But fear of heights is one of those things that you can get like, I feel like you must be able to get better at, and you have more exposure to it, and you fall a few times and you're fine. But there's something innate there too. Like, and we really should be afraid of heights. Like, we're pretty much jelly when we hit the ground. So
yeah. Oh, totally. Like, and yeah, students saying like, I know it's dumb that I'm afraid. And I say like, it's not dumb. Like our instincts are like purposeful, because it, like, if you did fall from here, that wouldn't be so good, you know?
Maybe it's not about like a blind pushing past fear either. Maybe it's more like, because the fact is that we have the ability to reason, and so we know why you should be pushing past fear. Like when you're rock climbing and you know like, well, this is a great rope and a new rope that's been tested a lot of times on good, you know, cables, and I should be fine to do this. But we still have some part of our brain that is never going to really believe that. It's going to be like, nah, there's no way. You're definitely going to fall. Yeah. And it was there for a purpose. Do you guys practice over mats or anything like that? I have to assume there's something.
Yeah, we have mats at the studio for sure.
Any gnarly like falls or anything you've ever done or seen?
I've fallen like where I knew I was going to fall and I was low to the ground and everything was fine. The biggest injury we see at the studio is people like stepping funny off the mat onto the floor and they roll their ankle.
Oh man.
Like the thing where you think you're totally safe, you're just walking.
Right.
Yeah.
That, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how to walk.
Yeah.
And you're wearing shoes that like keep your feet in one place all day and there's no support muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you know, breaking their toe with the same thing, like just stubbing their toe on the mat. So just the really, the really simple things that you don't expect. Right. So I always, if I'm teaching beginner classes, we'll always like talk about that. Like the place you think you're not safe, you're actually okay. If you fall on the mat, like it's going to cushion you. But if you step your toe on the mat or if you step off the mat funny, that's where you got to be careful.
Well, there's something too, like when you're in that environment, you're in such a heightened state and you're doing this thing that scares you so much, and you find like you've gotten done and you've let go of whatever ropes you were holding on to, and then you're totally not thinking about what you're doing in that moment, which is just like to safely walk from point A to point B.
Let your guard down.
Right. Yeah. There's something about like, it's so much harder to be present when you've just done this crazy thing. Like I have to imagine a lot of people get injured after the crazy stunt that they've just pulled off, because you're not thinking at all about like just walking around, being normal. Don't hit your head on that kind of stuff, right?
That would make sense.
I don't know, maybe. But what can you do if you do start to fall? Like, are you able to catch yourself in any sort of way? It looks like you'd just be hung out to dry, but maybe you can sort of catch yourself.
So interestingly, yeah. So that's, I know that there are some studios out there that kind of do like open level, just like throw you in whatever, or like you decide what level you're at or anything. The studio where I teach at, we have like defined levels and you pass off from like, we make sure like you have the certain skills you need that you built in this one level before you can get into the next level and work on harder things. And so by the time my students are in level 3, if they mess up, do something wrong, then I know that they are going to be able to have enough body awareness to be able to catch themselves.
Oh, I see.
So all the time, like not all the time, that sounds bad. Whenever there are like close calls or whatever, I say like, then that's why I'm glad that I like, you're in this level, because we can trust that you have the awareness to be able to save that. So either like catch themselves after they started falling or fall well. So, you want to be like,
right.
little tuck your head in and like just land on the mat there rather than doing anything
Not
weird and
doing
like
any
tucking your
wrists and
knee, ankle, wrist, yeah,
yeah,
whatever. Um, yeah, so I definitely like there's been times where I've had students fall and I don't ask if they're okay because I know they're okay. So the first thing I say is good fall. Like you
right,
did that well. Okay, and then I'll ask if they're okay
right.
just to make sure. But if I see and I'm like, oh, they they had they were trained with that to be their first reaction. That's perfect.
Yeah. Can I draw my martial arts equation again?
Yes, let's
Well,
do
it's the
it.
same thing because like I'm far more likely to get injured than the person that's been doing it for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
especially if I'm with the person, two people who've been doing it for 5+ years. Neither of them's getting injured because they know what they're doing as they're going into
Mm.
it, and it's you are more likely as that beginner to get injured. But it's so tricky too because I have to imagine this. It's the same here. Like an injury from doing that or something bad early on can really stop you from getting back on and getting back into it.
Oh yeah, no, that can slow you down or stop you for sure. Because then even though you knew that there's like potential dangers, or maybe you spend time getting comfortable enough that you kind of convince yourself that like you know how to keep yourself safe, and then that security of knowing that is kind of broken.
Yeah, you rely so heavily on that. And it
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be an injury. It could just be like a close call or just
Yeah. Oh
something
yeah.
that made you feel uncomfortable. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to feel that level of uncomfortable again.
Totally.
So we kind of tend to run away from that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Is there a fitness version of aerial stuff?
Oh, probably like aerial yoga if you've seen that.
I haven't, but
Yeah, so it's um less I haven't done it. So
okay.
I've just seen it and my impression is it's less about like, spinning and doing like fancy shapes and fancy like wraps in the fabric. It's you have your fabric loop and you're within that loop and you're using the fabric to support you as you do different postures, so kind of a different focus. And so I do think that that would be a really approachable way to get into it once you're like, okay, I'm off the ground and I'm focusing on relaxing.
Yeah.
Like that would be yeah. And then once you get into aerial hammock would be like the kind of translation there. Then you'd be like, okay, I can do that.
Right. Yeah, because that's an odd motion for a lot of us. Like I see people training on rings. I actually saw there were rings at the rock climbing gym,
Mm-hmm.
and that's so uncomfortable to me to think about that because I've never just hung. I mean, I guess when I took gymnastics classes as a little kid or something, but like I've never hung around from rings. And then you see people who are like, yeah, I can do presses and pull-ups and just all sorts of stuff on these rings um, that make it feel we don't hang from stuff anymore. Like,
Mm.
and that's even maybe something built into our DNA that we're supposed to hang around on stuff. And so if you're brand new to the idea of just holding on to something and hanging on, that can be pretty intense. But we're supposed to be able to. We should all have that like grip strength to do it.
Yeah, just a matter of what you're used to with so many things, I think.
But I feel like it's almost math when it comes to aerial. Maybe not math,
Mm.
like geometry. I don't know. To know like how many times this needs to wrap around here and you're just making a puzzle in the sky.
Yeah,
It's very cool to
good
watch.
physics teacher.
Yeah. We just were at a show, my last podcast episode, maybe, with Tanner Markley, and his show was a Cirque show, and we watched this pair do just insane things on, aerial, more like circus related type stuff. But the fact that she's able to crawl on his head up and then hold on to these lines, and then they can just swing out over an audience is just very intimidating to watch.
Oh yeah, and not only like trusting yourself and your apparatus, but also trusting another person. That's a big difference too.
Is that something that you've experimented with too, like having just a partner while you're doing that?
Yeah, and I've mostly done aerial doubles with my sister, and so we're really not afraid to communicate. So that's really nice. Like we're not worried we're gonna like hurt each other's feelings if we're like, no, that doesn't feel secure or like that hurts or whatever. So that's really nice. And I've worked just a little bit with other people, but yeah, I think that's a big part of it is being open to communicating because it matters for your safety or
Yeah.
like, admitting like, I can't hold you much longer. You need to like reach back up or whatever, rather than just being like, oh, I don't want to like tell them that I'm not strong enough for this or whatever. I don't have a good grip, even if you have the strength or whatever.
There has to be a lot of trust.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be like one brain to do that kind of stuff.
Mm.
I feel like that's super cool. Selfish question. Should I roll or stretch? Where do you land on the roll or stretch debate?
Both.
Okay.
So you knew it.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of the generic answer. But when I get injured, like, is it because I wasn't stretching and so then I have to roll, or the other way around?
I think rolling and stretching are both good preventative things. So that just help you from like prevent you from just being tight. And when you're tight is when it's harder to deal with the force that would pull you further than you normally would go. If your muscles are like not as tense because you've been rolling, if they're more flexible because you've been stretching, like those will both be helpful things that might make the difference between like fully being injured and just like, oh, that was a little, okay, I'm okay.
Okay, fair enough. I feel old school in this one because I haven't gotten into the rolling yet. And Andrew does it all the time, and I haven't gotten myself to do it. I'll do the stretching and I'll do yoga and stuff, but it's just like, it's such a foreign thing to me. I've never had a good, I need like some type of instruction. I need fitness rolling out classes.
I bet they have those. I bet that you could find that on YouTube too.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as like a person being there, being no, you're an idiot. You need to do it like this.
Well, and that comes back to our discussion of body awareness. Like if you're watching something on YouTube and you're like, yeah, I'm doing it, but maybe you're not.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu experts who just watch YouTube all day, and they're super not experts because as soon as you feel something, you're like, oh, that's not what I was expecting to happen. And I've seen videos and been like, yeah, I'll try that. That looks great for my body type in this position, whatever. And then you go and try it and you're like, oh, that's nonsense. Like there's no way that's working for me. There's so much that comes from having a teacher, an instructor, whether we're talking physical therapy or dance or aerial or martial arts. There's something to that human connection. And I'm super glad that most places are back to a place where we can do that in person with each other and there's no issues anymore. So you can just be around people and get the instruction that you need and be a beginner and try a new thing. And I think everybody who listens should go try a new thing that scares them and that they're bad at, but not all the time. Just like pick a few. You don't have to be bad at everything. Mostly be you, right? Yeah?
I like it.
Is that the message of the day?
Yeah.
I think so. And somebody send me some of these examples of more, I'm fascinated on this idea now that we need this, like, as soon as you call something fitness, people are like, oh, I'm not scared of it anymore. I'm going to try it now.
I think people still can be scared, but maybe less than if it was defined as a sport or art.
Right. Because we all have this idea that, like, I know how to exercise. Like, I've exercised before. I went to, at the very least, you did PE in middle school or something. So you know how to sweat and run and whatever. So maybe just calling something fitness allows people to be like, I know how to do fitness. I know how to be out of breath and whatever. And it's not about like becoming super great at something. I don't know. I'm hooked on this idea. I'll be thinking about this for several days now, which is really the mark of a good podcast. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Where can people find you online so they can check out what you've been up to?
So I'm on Instagram, Fisher Kendall, with difficult spelling. My dance company is myriaddancecompany.com or our Instagram, Myriad Dance. Myriad. Sometimes people think it's like Marriott with T's. Nope. Myriad. A myriad of possibilities.
A myriad.
Yeah.
Yes.
The aerial studio I teach at is ONYX Pole Aerial Fitness. You can find them at dancesaltlake.com.
Wow, you know all of the websites too. Yeah. That's super cool. Well, I will also put everything with the episode description and on the post I'll make on Instagram and everything. So as always, people can go check out things there at T. Hickson Life. As always, that's it. Kendall, thank you so much. This has been super fun. Thanks for having us out here and letting us, just raid your house. And
yes.
That's kind of how we are.
Glad
but you kind of knew that about us, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is what it is. Thank you. All right, folks, we will see you, as always, on the next episode.